Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, happen to be watching this little presentation I've got here. Gosh, what I say, I live in the United States. I've always lived in the United States. I've visited other places on the planet besides the country that I was born in. I find myself back in the same state that I was born in after many years of living other places. And we, as you know, I don't have to remind you of this, are dealing with some very traumatic situations. I cannot imagine, and I remember when I was a young teen, scrawny little guy, in high school in North Alabama, and I felt bullied. I felt scared, but I certainly never feared someone showing up at my school with a gun, like we see, unfortunately, too frequently today. That was never part of the equation. Just bullies, getting hurt, somebody beating me up, those kind of things were a concern and never really happened. I mean, I got punched in the arm, picked on, those kind of things. It was very uncomfortable, but never had to hide in a closet because of bullet spraying. Never had to have a drill for an active shooter situation in school. And it's just, again, it's just really sad. It's really, it's horrible. Because I remember myself having to go through the fear of simply being bullied and being punched in the arm and those kind of things. So, yeah, it was, it's just hard to fathom. Your life is really just getting started. You've spent already pretty much half your life in schools, and so you're, you know, and before you can even get out of the grade school, you're dealing with this situation. It is just horrible, and like I said, I don't know about you as an adult. If you can imagine such a thing. You have no way to defend yourself. That's not going to happen. Even if teachers were armed, which I don't know if that's going to be a good idea or not. We have a lot of teachers that are as crazy as some of these other people. I'm not trying to pick on teachers, but they are human, just like the rest of us. Teachers are arrested for pedophilia, for having sex with students. There's all kind of things that go on. So there's not going to be a perfect situation, no matter how you look at it. But I want you to get that feeling. I want you to think hard about when you were a kid, when you were a teen, and you were in school. And I want you to imagine you and your classmates there, and you're having to hide, bullets are being sprayed, you hear screams, and you hear the pop, 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 pop of a gun, and sometimes bullets fly through the door. You actually see a student or a teacher hit, bleeding, laying on the floor, not knowing whether they're alive or dead. I want you to really feel that as we get into where I want to talk about this active shooter situation and I'm going to say our obsession with guns. And I'm going to talk about this from both sides. It's very difficult. This is not easy. Not easy for anybody. And there's no quick answers. You know, we have other nations to look at and what they've done to rectify different situations. But some of these nations they've got a little bit different background than we do. But I want you to feel, I want you to close your eyes, I want you to go back, and I want you to put yourself in there with those kids, not just down in Florida, but all these other shootings at all these other schools. I want you to put yourself in a classroom, in a cafeteria, whether it's Columbine or any of these. You know, there's so many of them, it's hard to keep track of them. And but I want you to feel. I want you to feel what these kids felt. Not as an adult, but I want you to go back as a child, before you got out of school. I want you to feel what they felt, the fear, as they were texting and streaming to their parents or their sister, loved ones, whomever they could get a hold of, and sharing this, what was taking place. So yeah, I want you to feel that. Now, we've got a lot of issues, and there's no simple solution. On the majority conservative side, the gun rights, Second Amendment people, as they make their arguments in regards to what's to be done and what's not to be done, they jump up. Let's not make this an argument about guns. This is not the time. Let's not talk about guns. You're not going to take away my guns. Actually, today I had someone I bumped into that I'm familiar with, and they brought the subject up, and they were upset that these teens were trying to tell adults what to do, and they were really, really pissed about these kids speaking out like they were. The kids are afraid, and what are the adults doing? I'm not going to get into, you know, will changing gun laws make a difference? Let's talk about the gun laws for a moment. The whole issue with guns started back during the Reagan administration in earnest, when the assassination attempt happened on Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, and Brady, who was on his staff, was shot and paralyzed for the rest of his life during that attempt. And the bill that was passed, lobbied for, and passed, you've heard it in the news ad nauseum, was the Brady bill. Now, I'm not going to go into the Brady bill. I want you to do your homework if you are a serious adult on either side, right, left, pro-gun, anti-gun, whatever. Do your homework and look at that bill. We have this situation. If you Google, and I want you to do one other thing, I want you to Google guns stolen from police, guns stolen from FBI, guns stolen from Secret Service, and I want you to read articles there that even our most elite policing authorities in this country have guns stolen from them. And then do a generic search. Guns stolen out of vehicles. And then guns stolen out of houses. And you're going to be amazed at all the guns that are on our streets that are not properly registered. We don't have a clue where they are. They're in some hands being sold on the street. No record of them in any fashion. So I want you to keep that in your mind. But I also want you to do that Google search. I've done this. Just for me to spout these things off is, you know, that doesn't do anyone any good, because you should fact check what I'm talking about. So we've got illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. Gosh, there's so many weapons, like there's so many illegal aliens, that without imposing on privacy issues and freedoms like that, and first of all, there's not enough resources. we don't have the resources to go knock on everybody's door, go into every business in every city, town, all across this country to round up all the illegal aliens. I mean, we get into situations where, show me your papers, we've already got that. Within 100, 200 miles of our border, south of the border. So if you travel across I-10, you can bet there's more than one checkpoint to where they're going to ask you. And technically, no, they don't ask for your papers, but they ask you, are you a U.S. citizen? And and they want that response. And you know what determines whether they ask for papers from there or not, I don't know. But anyway, wanting to take the guns away and legitimately being able to take the guns away are two different issues. It's like wanting to build a wall along our southern border along Mexico and being able to effectively accomplish that feat is two things. And then what advantage, what good would it do to build that wall or to pass another law? We've got laws in place. So anyway, we've got this huge movement of, we're not going to get into the NRA, forget the NRA. They don't run my life, they may donate a lot of money to politicians, but the issue, and this is hard because I'm not anti-gun, but I'm not pro-gun. I'm like, okay, guns are just, you can outlaw all this you want, and it's like Texas, if laws work and punishment worked, Texas would have long ago rid itself of murders because they put murderers to death in Texas. It's a commonplace thing in their own record books of capital punishment. But yet they keep continually having murders in Texas. So passing laws and so forth are, you know, I mean, we've got laws. The laws are there, but if you've got a teenager that lives in your house and you are, you know, got a gun or two, then you have the responsibility to keep that gun in safekeeping. You may, you know, and some these guns, again, were legally purchased. I mean, there's no reason up to this point. So that this latest kid down in Florida that killed his 17. You look at that for a second. He's got his father, his adopted father died, and his adopted mother recently died, like in November. And he was living with another family. He got kicked out of school. He may have been strange. He may have been quirky. He may have been a little bit different. But where does those things draw a line to where you say, ooh, call the police, or, you know, like somebody said this guy had been reported to the FBI. It's like, at what point, I mean, so I'm going to call the police or the FBI, and so all of a sudden we've got police responding to eccentric people with odd behavior, and then we end up, as we have seen, squashing a lot of our free speech. And so that's, you know, there again, we're talking about balancing all this out. So we got this concern. So we outlaw these semi-automatic weapons, these AK whatevers. Are they going to just go into non-existence? What's going to happen to them? There's a lot of them out there, and they're common. And if you go to the gun stores, what I've been reading, I haven't been to a gun store lately, but if you go to one of these places, they are supposedly people are shopping for these same guns like hotcakes. I think they maybe are afraid they're going to be made illegal, and so they're buying these weapons, the same ones that's been used in all these mass shootings. They don't have to be automatics to do a lot of damage, because basically you load a lot of bullets in there in that clip, and you have several clips. The only time you slow down is when you need to change that clip. Otherwise, as fast as your little finger will pull that trigger, it's going to fire. The only difference between that semi-automatic and an automatic is that in an automatic, you could just hold the trigger and it continues to fire. Semi-automatic, you actually have to physically pull that trigger each time. So, but okay, so like I said, I'm not pro-gun, I'm not anti-gun. I've always said that I don't want to live in a country where only cops and crooks have guns. That's just the way I feel. I mean, guns are made for one specific purpose, and it's not target practice, it's for hurting people and damaging stuff. That is the only purpose of a gun. They have no, hunting. Well, in our world today, hunting is a sport now, it's not a necessity for food. So that's the reality. I don't know personally anybody. I mean, we do our hunting at the Publix and Kroger's and Walmart's. None of us are waiting for Dad and Grandpa to come back from the woods and having brought us back some meat so we can eat for the week. That's just not our reality anymore. And and again, you see how complicated this gets. And I'm just having a one-sided conversation. I'm trying to balance all this out. Would laws work? I'm not convinced that laws will work. But what troubles me is all these adults that are getting on this pro-gun conversation, and they're claiming that the one side is saying they're trying to take our guns away, but they are even louder, lashing out about the gun issue itself. I've listened to these kids and what they're saying to the politician, and here's the bottom line. Instead of going in this negative route, okay, so you got a group over here, a large group that says we need gun laws. And then you got this group over here that said, what I want to ask is, and down in the comment section, this is going to be, I know I'm putting this out live now, but so what would you do? What would you do? Instead of just saying, don't make this about guns, then don't talk about guns. Give us something. Tell these kids, we get up every morning and send them off on buses and whatnot to these schools, hey, you got to do this, go and get your education. What are you going to do to protect them? Come up with a plan. That's what I want to hear. That's what these kids want to hear. So drop the issue. If you're saying, look, we're not going to make this about the guns, fine. Don't talk about the guns. Don't lash out about the people. That let them have their little gun rant. They've got the right to say we want to do something about guns, but you cannot create your case on the negative. You have to come up with some positive proposal to resolve the situation. That is not being done. We just have this back and forth of don't make it about guns, and we need to talk about the other side saying we need to talk about more gun control. You don't want more gun control? Fine. What do you propose? Where are we going with this? And that is the bottom line. Where are we going with this? Again, as you're thinking these thoughts, as you are just calm down, take a breath. We're all angry, we're frustrated. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing though is the people on the right over here who are pro-gun, don't take my guns, don't, tell these teenagers to shut the hell up. They're not going to tell us adults what to do. They're not going to take my guns away. Stop that rant and come up with a plan. What are we going to do to protect these kids? This has been a horrible 1 year. We've had the shooting in Orlando. We've had the shooting in Las Vegas. We've had a shooting at more than one church. We've had a shooting at theaters. We've had shootings at schools. And I'm not talking about just one or two people getting shot. We're talking about a dozen and dozens of people getting killed. So we're the nation that's got this problem. What you're failing to realize, you may live in your little bubble and you may have your house and closets and guns everywhere and one on your hip and one in your car and whatever. But I can't believe that you're not concerned about these mass shootings. I can't believe that you're that inhumane, that you're not interested in having an adult conversation on what can we do, instead of debating on, the one side has got a proposal, like it or not, at least they've got something on the table saying we need to tighten down our gun laws, have a better waiting period, have a better make certain types of guns illegal. They've come up with a plan. They have a plan. They have somewhat copied this plan from other countries like Australia. So you don't like that plan. Well, that's fine. But you're not going to accomplish anything by simply dogging out the other plan. You have to come up with a counter proposal, something effective that's going to work. You want to blame it on mental health issues. I don't doubt that mental health has something to do with it, but unfortunately, very unfortunately, technically from mental illnesses outside of some very extreme cases. You'd be surprised how many people out here that could be diagnosed with like bipolar. Schizophrenia is a step up, maybe, where do you draw the line with these things? Where do you draw the line with, so you got to think about these things as you make these proposals. So do we all go in and get a mental evaluation before we buy a gun? Is that where this leads? I mean, how does this effectively progress? So I can see problems with both sides, and I can pick apart even the ones I tend to agree with. I can pick apart and say, I don't think it's going to be that effective in our nation like it was maybe in Australia, because I see the differences in our nation, size, and the number of guns we've already got here compared to what Australia had at that time. So I don't have the answers, but I'm not going to sit out here and and just listen to this rant back and forth of the one side saying we need tougher gun laws, and the other side saying you're not going to take my guns. Saying you're not going to take my guns does not address the problem. It does not address protecting our kids or protecting ourselves when we go to a bar or a theater or a football game or whatever. It does not address the issue. You're just saying, I don't like what you're proposing. Well, that's fine. You don't like it. You've got to come up with a counter proposal. You've got to come up with something effective. Quit barking down this street and come up with something. Put something on the table. Help your legislatures, help the elected officials, our lawmakers, by proposing. What would you like to see happen? And weigh it out as adults. Weigh it out as adults. Think about lives. That's why at the beginning of this I said, put yourself in the position of those kids that were in their classroom, hiding in closets, hiding behind closed doors, under desks, on the floor, pop, 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 teacher laying dead out here, blood spewing forth from a fellow student. Put yourself as a kid in that position. And then start talking. Close your eyes. Listen to those videos. They're on YouTube. Listen to what these kids went through. If you have a hard time imagining it, go listen to it. Go and listen to their tears, their screams, and read their text, their messages on their phones. And then let's have an adult conversation. And again, an adult conversation is not one side proposing gun control and all the other side can do is say, no, that ain't gonna work, you ain't taking my guns. That's not a response. That does not address this issue. You got a plan? Present it. It's that simple. But to just dog out the side that says we want gun control, that is not a response, that's not an effective argument, that does nothing. So there is my President's Day, Monday evening rant about all that's going on, and I can see this on more than one level. And at my age, I'm less involved in it than most. I don't have any kids in school. I'm not in school. I don't involve myself as a general rule around situations that's going to put me in any of these circumstances. Um, so maybe you, as a listener, may have more at stake. Maybe you're more vested in this debate than I am. But I hope that you can take a breath. I hope that you can indeed sit back, close your eyes, and put yourself on the floor in a classroom as the gun's being fired as a teenager. Not as an adult, but as a teenager, and feel as one of the victims. Feel death come over you. Feel it. And then let's have an adult conversation. Not, again, like I said, I get it. You don't like the proposal that the one side has that says we need to tighten up gun control, blah, blah, blah. I get that. But you're not offering anything just by saying that you're against that. Come up with a proposal, and let's talk about the proposal. Let's talk about what can be done. For the most part, most of you guys that are people that are listening to this are like President Trump. You just went on about your day. For the most part, you sit your, you kids get up in the morning, go to school like always. You'll watch TV. You'll watch your favorite sitcom. You'll play your favorite game. You'll go to your movie. You'll watch a ball game. Your life is outside of some emotion and whatnot. Your life is pretty untainted by the large part. It's frustrating, and you moan, but not for long. You get on with it. And you have the social media warriors that do their thing. And so I guess in great part I'm addressing these social media warriors who are, like I said, the one side are saying we need stricter gun laws, we need to change some laws on guns here, and then all we have from the other side, and yes, I'm barking about the other side that are pro-gun, because I get it, I hear you, but that's not presenting anything, that's not getting anywhere. Just you let it be known that you don't want to talk about guns, fine, don't discuss it, let's bring something to the table. That's it. And like a lot of people and students have said, thoughts and prayers have not cured this. We've been seeing thoughts and prayers for some time now, and this continues. And one other thing I'd like to address is as far as people saying, well, we took God out of schools. Well, guess what? How many shootings have we had in churches where God is prayed to and is considered God's house? And God certainly has not been kicked out of a church. I think anybody that was in those churches would indeed be arguing with you in that regard. So, thoughts and prayers are not resolving it, and just saying that you're not going to take my guns is not resolving it. Like I said, the one side has presented what they would like to see happen, and that is gun control. And the other side has only said, you're not going to take my guns. And that's just not going to cut it. So anyway, there you go. Share this video. I'm about to archive it when I end it here. And I'd like the comments to be presented. I'd like the discussion to continue. And, the one side, I get it. I get the gun control. It's there. I get it. What I want to hear from the other side, though, is what you can present. All right.